Hi, thank you for tuning in to In Good Company with Constantia. You've now made it to episode 5, and it's our closing one today of season 1. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Paul Blane from Care Business Associates Training, CBAT. Paul started in the care industry at 17 years old and has done a marvellous job building up different portfolios of organisations, care homes, training platforms, and a plethora of other things. Also with his own podcast of Behind the Briefcase, which I'm sure a lot of you will have already tuned into. It's a great conversation. You're going to hear all about how we train people in the health and social care sector, but do we really ever look at the training is here, but how do we then measure the competence and the confidence of that person then using those foundational skills that they've built to then really elevate the experience of people using care services? So you'll hear all about that. You'll hear a little bit about the regulator and what that looks like in today's world. And we're going to be getting into how we look at elevated leadership, how we reverse engineer culture within organisations, and much, much more. It's a really great episode to get into. And I just want to say thank you for tuning into all of season 1 with In Good Company. We're really, really thrilled that it's done as well as it has done. We're humbled by that. Thank you for being on this journey with us, and we can't wait to welcome you to season 2, which has got some amazing guests already lined up. Thank you. When Georgia mentioned that you and I were going to sit down, I'd put your name in Google, and it said you've been in care since you were 17, and it said that you have challenged the traditional models of training, which I really liked about that, because I feel very much like a challenger, and I feel the sector needs challengers against kind of the status quo. So it'd be really good to understand you, if you didn't mind, just like, because I started off young as well. Like, how does it feel in today's world in the sector compared to when you were 17, and what does that journey look like, and what made you a challenger of?
It's different now. So, I mean, now that I'm really old, so So looking at the care industry now to when I first started, you are in a position where it was shared rooms. So there was in the first homes that I worked in, 4 people to 1 bedroom. Everybody sharing the same commode pot. People getting undressed in front of other people. There was no en suites. A lot of homes were local authority run, which always worries me when I hear the word that they should go back to that, because people are forgetting what it was like. If I look at the staff training, there was none. I mean, the story of my first day in post is horrendous when I tell it, even though quite funny to a degree looking back now, but you can see why a lot of people left the industry. Training was VHS videos and things. It was unrelatable. What I would say that's different is back in that time, there was a lot more coaching and mentoring. There was a lot you learned from people that you worked with. And every skill that I developed was developed through someone spending time with me, telling me off for doing something wrong and then showing me the right way. Engineering a pathway for me. And I think in today's day and age, the certificate has become more important than the person. And I think that's where training's gone. We've actually overkilled it, which sounds mad from someone that owns a training company. And we've lost the personal touch in terms of how to bring someone on and develop them and give them the time in order to do that. But on the plus side, the industry's changed because the buildings that people are living in now, the environments are far superior. My issue is where's the middle ground in all this? You know, there's a phrase that my mum used to use to me all the time, and that was fur coat and no knickers.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you see these beautiful buildings, but if you staff them with the wrong people and unqualified and unskilled and incompetent, you can have the chandelier hanging from the ceiling, but the biggest asset that you have in that building is the staffing team, because they're the ones delivering the care.
Totally. I feel
so we have to work around that.
Absolutely. I've said that quite a few times. I call them a bit of a land yacht, these big land yacht care homes, and they are beautiful and an amazing environment for people to live in. But if you've got even if, forget the training for a second, even if you think about staff culture, if you've got a staff team in there that have got the wrong culture at heart and they haven't got the training that underpins the safe care they need to deliver, then it'll be inadequate any day of the week.
Absolutely.
If you've got a home that is 60 years old and, you know, it's an older asset, still got a peach bathroom suite in, but the staff team have got the heart and the values and the creativity and the passion of what they're doing and how they're doing it, and the training is where it needs to be, it'll be outstanding every day of the week.
People can be happy living in the council house and unhappy living in the mansion.
Yeah.
It's the people that surround you. That's what we thrive in and live for. So yeah, absolutely, that staffing team is crucial. You get that wrong, that you've no business. There's no model.
I think pride's changed, Paul, in terms of, you know, like back in the day, you would support your person to get up in the morning, get ready, and the person-centred care back then weren't something that we talked about a lot in terms of person-centred care, but when you now evaluate it, it was the same thing. And it almost used to be that you'd support that person to get up and get ready. You would dress them really well, you'd put the perfume on or their aftershave, you'd make sure the glasses were clean, and I almost felt when I would care for someone to get up that they were a representation of me and maybe how my house were kept and how I was kept, you know, from that point of view. Do you think that's changed?
Yeah, but I think that's culture as a whole. You know, I was raised in a place called Hamilton in Scotland. Okay. My granny, because that's what we call them in Scotland.
I thought I detected a Scottish accent under there.
She was paralysed from the waist down.
Right.
So she lived with us. And the culture of families in those days was very much that. You know, the family looked after the family. When we look at the modern day times, families are not as close connected as what they were. They are in certain cultures, but certainly in their culture, we're too busy really to take the family side. So the younger generation that's growing up, I think, are becoming independent way too fast. Even though we turn around and say they're not, they are. They're not getting to live a childhood. They're not getting to learn those family values that are influenced by so many different things around them. And I think what's happening is you are seeing that come into the workplace, be it in care or any other industry, because those values that we learn growing up, as you talk about, you know, you would treat someone else's house
mother,
or
father,
home the
or
same
father,
way that you would treat yours. Well, it's not there anymore because it's been lost at a younger age. But I also go back to the point of, it sounds really awful now because I'm really going to slate education again. I left school roughly around about the age of 15. So I decided from about the age of 9 that I was going to be the greatest jockey ever to live. I know people often look at the size of me and go, how? Right? I was very small and slim. By the age of 17, I was a jockey, but by the age of 17, I realised there was 3 things you needed to be the best jockey ever to live. One was be able to ride a horse. That's quite a good one. 2 is be able to keep your weight down. I struggled. 3 is when you fall off, which I did plenty of times, get back up and get back in the saddle. I was the person that shouted for my mum more than anything. So I ended up by 17 years old that career was gone. All those dreams and aspirations were gone, and my mum put me in a care home to work. So when I sort of said I'm going to find myself, she went, yeah, in this care home at the bottom of the road the next day.
Your mum,
there was nothing in my mind that wanted to do that, and I've never left the industry since. So ultimately, if we fast forward, I would never have got into this industry had it been during a period of time that the National Care Standards came out or the Health and Social Care Act came out and supported that over 18 working mentality. I hated school. To go on and become a teacher, it blows my mind, but I hated school. I knew what I was going to be. That didn't work out. I had to get resilience and get over myself. I had family values. You'll get over yourself very quickly. You know, you've got rent to pay. And then I was put to do a job that I didn't want to do. But then somehow found passion and love within it. And when we're actually looking at models now, when I say about education, we're kind of forcing people to stay in education and learn what? There is absolutely, other than times table and reading and writing. Nothing else did I learn in school, because I didn't want to. I learned everything in later life when I found a passion.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. I did 5 years of French, and I can say hello to you and count to 10, and my name, which I already know, right? That's it. Could you imagine paying somebody for 5 years, 1 hour a day to teach your child French? And after 5 years, they turn around and say, bonjour, je m'appelle Paul Blane, un, deux, trois, quatre. And then you ask them a question, they can't answer back. You'd be wanting your money back straight away.
Absolutely.
So we kind of need to get to a level again where people have options. And I think that will try and change the industry that we work in and bring the new leaders forward.
What if just I really want to get into what you fell in love with, because I feel like that's going to tell us why you are so successful today, and that kind of challenging the status quo and everything else. What do you think made you fall in love with the sector? And thinking about then, what do you think makes people fall in love with today's sector?
I think I'm a little bit slightly a different breed.
Okay.
I like to get angry, as daft as it sounds.
Right.
So I got angry that first day. I was very angry.
Because your mum had pushed
well,
you.
I was angry at that.
Get
but
down
it was
there.
also, just to try and give you a snapshot of the story very quickly. So my first day, in those days, for the younger audience that's watching, for the older audience that's watching will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
There was none of these nurse call systems where the number came up. It was little red triangles that were on top of the outside of the room.
Yeah.
And you had a little magnet key to turn it off. So when the nurse call sound came up, you had to run around every bedroom looking for the red light.
Yeah.
So I was told this, I was informed this, don't worry, you don't need to do anything, but if one's going off for longer than what it should do, which is normally about a minute, just go reset it and come and get one of us. So this red light, the nurse call is going off, and I'm sort of like trying to hide myself because I don't want to be there. I don't want to speak to anybody. I don't even know what we're supposed to do. Nobody's told me anything. I've just literally been sat in a room with a big folder to read, but this is going off, and I thought, all right, I'm going to have to slowly walk around this building looking for this red light and hope it just stops.
Yeah. And
there was room number 14, and there's the red light, and there is no one in sight. Now I've walked into the room. There is a gentleman lying on the bed, and I will try and be as nice with my words, but the thought that was going through my head at this moment in time was exactly what I was seeing in front of me.
Okay.
He had a hole in his stomach, and the nice word would be feces was coming out of it.
Okay.
No one in my life has ever told me that you can have a hole in your stomach and feces can come out of it. The only movie I can associate that to was a movie back in my childhood called Alien, where the alien came out the stomach. So in my mind, this is a Cat 1 emergency. This man is dying now.
Yeah.
So I've hit this red button that they told me to hit in an emergency, and then the herd of elephants have come racing down the corridor and piled into the room. I pushed them back out of the room. I'm 17 years old, and gone, right, guys, he's got a hole in his stomach, and I think it's coming out of it. It's like 999.
There's something really off here.
Something bad.
Yeah.
And I got told at that point his bag had burst. What does that mean, right? And then I got pushed back into the room and got told to change the bag. No training, no experience, no nothing.
Wow.
This gentleman, lovely man called Vic, he talked me through the whole process. There was toilet roll on the windowsill. I was like the Labrador puppy, wrapping myself with that, cleaning it up into this yellow bag and flicking it almost. It was awful. The smell, my body language, everything was so wrong with that. Putting the bag in place, you think the Audi car manufacturer puts everything to a millimeter. I'm lowering this thing down like I'm doing the lunar landing on the moon to try and get the holes to connect. Managed to do it. Walked out. No one came and said, was I okay? No one checked. No nothing. I went into the lounge. This is only round about 9 o'clock in the morning. Everybody is asleep in the lounge, bar one person. So I went and spoke to them. Why is everybody asleep? And soon discovered that they were getting people up at 4 a.m. in the morning because they had this deal where night staff got everybody up for day staff and day staff put everybody to bed for night staff. Went into the dining room. There is a gentleman asleep in a bowl of porridge. His head is in it. Now, I don't know what happens in life, but at no point ever have I made a bowl of porridge and thought, I'm going to stick my head in that because it looks a nice place to sleep. So I'm asking all these questions as a 17-year-old. And if I could have remembered the code for that front door, I would have been gone. Because to me, this was horrific. Now, people may turn around and go, you know, I couldn't have worked in that environment. But I looked at that environment and thought, I can do something with this. For some reason, this 17-year-old child, by the age of 21, I was the manager of that facility. By the age of 23, I'd been headhunted, 22, headhunted by another organization. By 23, I owned the building. So if I had the key code to actually leave that property that day, the health and social care would have lost me forever. And when I look at what I've gone on to achieve and do within health and social care, I always boil it down to that day. If something's not right, what are you going to do about it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So your training, in essence, back then, were a person you were caring for as the best you could.
Yeah.
Talked you through his care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when they say the word person-centered care, there is no better meaning to it than that.
No, absolutely not.
Thank goodness the gentleman was able to tell me that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known what to do.
Wow. And in today's world, in today's climate, as we're out there, you talked about night staff putting, getting people up in the morning and day staff putting people to bed. Do you think that's shifted?
I would like to hope it has. I would imagine there's certain facilities where it's not.
Do you think the training, what level of, because, again, we talk about training, don't we? And we talk about, there's a big difference, isn't there, between training someone and them being competent and confident in that training. There's a huge difference in all that. And I think as providers, we're really guilty we think about being inspected.
Yeah.
We think about not only CQC, but the local authority, PAMS inspections, all those types of things. So we're really, really guilty, I believe, as a sector, thinking, okay, we've got to get the training stats up. Training stats up. So we apply loads of pressure to the staff team. Why is your training not above this certain percentage? We need to get you trained. They all do it en masse, which means, is it really meaningful? Because at that point, they're just trying to complete a task.
Absolutely.
And we try and move away from task-orientated approaches, don't we, in general? And then we forget about it then, it's done. But we never really check. You and I could sit here now and be taught something, and it'll land totally differently. And you might be more confident than I am.
Absolutely.
Than in that, exactly. So what do you think in terms of even just thinking about person-centred care and getting people up and all those types of things? Have we really combated that training? I'm not just thinking about e-learning. I'm thinking about that coaching and mentoring. Do you think we've combated that?
It's something okay. So what you just said there, and I hope people see that as incredibly powerful, because it is. We have shifted from the word competence to compliance. Everything I hear is about compliance.
Absolutely.
Right. Who are you complying to? Okay. First of all, the only person I could care about complying to is a person within my care. Everybody else is secondary or third or fourth. Right. If that person believes they're getting delivered the right care that suits them by the right people to the right levels, that's my compliance. Paperwork, everything like that, is very important. It's very important we have that documentation, particularly in this day and age. But that is something that we can learn as we go. It cannot be the first thought process. The first thought process has got to be care. I always say this, if you're scoring inadequate or requires improvement in the standard of care within a CQC inspection, be very concerned at that level, because that should always be good as a minimum. Everything else is compliance to a degree.
And if you've been forced into compliance, there's a problem.
Correct. Now, when we talk about competence, I would think that people that are listening to a conversation now, which may go on for an hour, I don't know, whatever the podcast length is, would look at it and go, well, them two seem very competent within this field that they're talking about. But if we were actually starting to talk about bricklaying, I'm sure they'd have a different opinion to that. So we have to get more to the model of First of all, the training is important to give because you've got to give the skill. But once they've got the skill, how are we checking that that skill has been adapted into the workplace?
Absolutely.
That's not academia. That is not academia. I could teach you on a training course how many vertebrae you've got in the spine. I'm going to be honest with you, on the floor, I don't believe you wake up every morning to check whether you've still got 32 of them or 33 of them, right? So ultimately, I'd much rather it be an observational competence. Are you using the hoist the way in which you were shown to use?
Yeah.
Right. So once I know someone is competent in that skill, it's a maintenance of that, or it's got to be a progression. What we have within an industry is no progression. You will go do a training course and then you will return either in a year's time, 2 years' time, or 3 years' time and do that exact same training course again. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you know the alphabet?
Yeah, I do know the
You
alphabet.
do. I'm just going to test you a little bit. Can you give me the first 3 letters of it?
A, B, C.
Brilliant, excellent. How would you feel tomorrow if I said you've got to do an e-learning course tomorrow on learning the alphabet?
Offended.
Absolutely. Because you'd rather just sit there now and give me all the letters of the alphabet and get it job done.
Absolutely.
Right. That's compliance. That's competence. Just because you go sit in that training course, the thing we need to understand as human beings is if I know it, if I've learned it already, if I use that skill and you start talking about it, I ain't about to relearn it. My brain will switch off. And once I start switching that brain off, I've lost all opportunity of growth.
So do you believe then, Paul, and we're probably going to come on to this in terms of that model you've created in training and developing of people, do you believe then that in terms of the foundation is planting the seed, isn't it? So that's the baseline, the learning, the face-to-face, whatever it is, that initiation into subject matter is the seed planting. Everything that comes after it is where the meat are on the bones. That's where the big stuff happens, where we really enable people to feel confident in what they're doing and therefore nodding into coaching others to come along the way. So is there then an argument whereby realistically as providers, regardless what industry that they're in, the foundation is laid, that's it?
Correct.
And everything else is about how we then capture, because sadly we do have to capture, the development, the coaching, the mentoring, the evaluation, the 360 of that foundation.
Who turned round ever? Look through CQC's regulations. Look through the Health and Social Care Act. Go back and look through the National Minimum Care Standards. Very little in there about what training or qualification people need to have. It says they need to be skilled, knowledgeable, experienced, and competent. What we've done is take the easy route out. If we pay $5,000 for an e-learning system per year and we make all the staff do these 23 e-learning courses, that ticks a box. How does that provide skills, knowledge, experience, and competence? It doesn't.
No, the blanket approach has been applied, hasn't it?
So there has got to be many different ways in which we deliver training to staff, not just one. So let me give you an example. When I first started in care and somebody used the word care plan to me, I would not have a clue what that is. No way, right? So someone would have to show me that. Someone would have to explain to me what it is. If you stick me on a training course, I'm going to learn because it's something brand new that I know nothing about, so my brain becomes a sponge to that knowledge. That training course is not going to teach me how to write it, because school should have taught me how to write. But here's the thing, I'll give you some of my old school work to read. You wouldn't let me write a care plan, okay? I still don't understand fully what person-centered care is or what life histories are or things like that. So I need to actually become a little bit more like an investigative journalist in finding out this information. I'm going to learn that by observation, by watching people, by having a go at writing a care plan and someone having a look at it and going, okay, this is a really good first attempt. Why don't you try and add this in and this in and this in? That's coaching and mentoring. If you stick me on a training course and it's an hour long on how to write a care plan and your expectation is that I can write Edith Blyton standard care plans as a result of that, you're off your rocker. That's not going to work. We need at least 4 or 5 different levers to this.
We could get into some really meaty context here, because do you think then that you've mentioned about nowhere in the scriptures that are out there that talks about what training should look like in terms of, they said competent, they say, you know, trained, safely trained ultimately to deliver care. And it is exactly that. In one of the other episodes that we've done, a talk that I did, I talked about high stakes, and I had a slide that said, you don't go to prison for accidentally discounting the middle aisle of Aldi. And it's the same concept, isn't it? If you think about the pay disparities that we've got going on, sometimes you're paid more to work at Aldi.
Absolutely.
But actually, if I train you and I deem you as trained because I've ticked the box that you're trained, haven't probably tested your competence and your confidence in it, and then you go away and decide to hoist a person on your own, even though I've trained you not to, and they break their hip and they die, there's something going to happen with that, but there's not going to happen with the other. However, if we're then thinking about elevating training that goes beyond the foundation laying and that blanket approach, do you think it's, and we're doing it right now, aren't we, I guess, do you think there's a danger there of, it depends who the coach and the mentor then is?
Oh, 100%.
And how do we combat that?
Because we have to teach people how to coach and mentor properly. That's the key in all of this. If you want bodying systems, you know, like for most companies out there, they will spend roughly around about 2% of their turnover on training.
Yes.
Between 2 to 5%,
yes.
depending on the standard and
yes.
level. So let's just go for the minimum of roughly around about 2%. So if you are, based on that figure, if you're a £1 million turnover domiciliary company, then what, you're spending 20 grand on training? That'd probably be about right. Now within that, you'll have bought an e-learning system, you'll be doing face-to-face and moving and handling, basic life support, all these other different subjects. But your money's going to get swamped very quickly. So your budget's gone. But actually, when we look at it, if people know this and we can prove they know it, then we can start to utilize that budget for growth expectations going forward. And part of that should be, how do we create a bodying system that works? How do we create a mentorship program that works? How do we create leaders for the future within our pathways as we go forward? How do we start to look at a customer service which will improve our business opportunities? How do we get sales and marketing within this? Because ultimately, if you're doing a show round, I mean, there's companies out there in care homes that are charging £2,000 a week. If they have someone in that service for 2 years, then that phone call that's coming through, that inquiry that is coming through, is what, £208,000 of an inquiry? Are you telling me that you would allow someone that has terrible telephone skills to take a £208,000 inquiry? If you knew that was a £208,000 inquiry, you'd have the greatest person in customer service taking that phone call.
Absolutely.
And here's the difference, right? You would have trained them. Right? So we are stuck on mandatory and statutory and wondering why our business models aren't improving, wondering why we're not growing our brand out there. Yes, we may be acquiring different levels of sight, but we're not growing a person, not just in the skill set to deliver care, but the wider skill set that it takes to be a person, a good person, which is what we're trying to deliver. And that's why, you know, when we spoke earlier before we started press and record, when we're looking at the leaders in care today that are coming through, they're missing these essential skills because we haven't developed them in people. So I always look at companies and go, right, how on earth do we train people with the mandatory and the statutories and get it done? Competency assess them to make sure it's still working. If there's changes, go back in. If we need to go back to the drawing board in areas, go back in to individual levels, not mass. And then how do we spend our budget on other areas that we haven't even looked at or touched that's going to make it a difference? How do we actually get our staff to show empathy to the relative that's walking in the building for the first time, knowing that on Saturday they were absolutely fine, they were round at mum, she was doing the gardening, on the Sunday she had a stroke, 3 weeks, you know, a week later they've been told to find a placement for mum in a care home. They don't know the industry, they don't know the funding, they don't know nothing, and they're walking in that door. How do we get every staff member in that building to understand where they are coming from? That's where training needs to be. That's where person-centered care really is.
We as an organisation, we're definitely creating something different, is what I would say, across the sector and how we do things. And it's and when you were talking then about all these different departments and training and elevating experience, and it's been compassionate and understanding that, yeah, when a family is ringing because that's happened, the level of guilt that will be in that call will be astronomical. And it's about being able to carry that weight for that person and guide them through that journey. We do all that in terms of we have a resident and family.
That's why you're in good company.
There you go. We have a resident and family experience partner, and her role is to guide. And we've just finished the creation of a journey booklet, which is a bit like their aid memoir, to walk them through it all. And the entire way through it talks about and acknowledges that this is not easy. And it's about managing expectations and managing the plethora of different funding and how to do it and unlock it and local authorities and all this type of thing. But forgetting that and all the exceptional stuff that I believe we're doing in isolation in Constantia Healthcare Group, how do you think the sector, and we'll have pockets of this with us, how do you think we reverse engineer the culture? Because you've mentioned before we kind of switch records about you and I talked about saying, I believe today's leaders have to almost be working a step ahead. So your deputy is your registered manager level and so on and so forth. And I believe a lot of that is we are working in a regulated environment where the regulator has lost credibility across the sector. They are sending people in to inspect services that may not have that experience or skill set or expertise. So it might be that a age-related needs inspector is going to a learning disability service, as an example, and they're applying the regulated activity and they're inspecting it against their methodology. We understand that inspections need to happen, but we've got an issue, haven't we, when there's such a disparity between what the framework says that we're measured against versus what people expect to see. And what I mean by that is, if we've got inspectors that are going out there that are still living back then of what they expect a service should look like and what they think good looks like, and the weight they carry and the influence they have to be able to then influence the outcome of that inspection based upon perception and expectations of their individual, reverse that back into a care home then, and we're talking about you've been in care sector since you were 17, so we've got people that have been in the sector for years and years and years. How do leaders reverse that culture whereby we start to get people to understand it's all right if you're not sitting in front of that e-learning every year because this and this matters more. It's okay that you don't update that support plan every 30 days because someone tells you to. Because actually it should be live, and every time something happens it should be changed anyway. We don't need you to write reviewed no changes every single month. No one told you to do that, or did they?
They did.
Did a mentor, did a piece of regulation, did something happen at some point that said every 30 days you must? Because as you and I all both know, when it comes to regulation and government and messages that are sent, usually it's very wishy-washy and it's almost your interpretation of, rather than giving you the direct hard line. So how do you think we reverse that mindset?
So I think, first of all, what we've done is create a culture of fear.
Definitely.
Fear and persecution. In every other business, fear is taken, or fear of failure are taken as a learning experience. What we do is we tap the regulator taps word around lessons learned on everything. But then if we're looking at lessons learned on everything, then there has to be less persecution when you get it wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? Because otherwise what will happen is you'll build up defence walls and you will try and protect yourself at all costs. Definitely. And then nobody is going to turn around and say, hey, I failed.
And closed cultures start happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So because of that, and because of negative press, because of everything that goes with it, we've actually created a huge problem for ourselves. Now, I'm going to say something now that a lot of people might disagree with. A lot of people say that we're overregulated. I'm going to say we're underregulated now. We've unregulated ourselves. So that's going to shock a lot of people. But when I first started in the industry, you got 2 inspections a year. You got an announced and you got an unannounced. So of course, the announced one, in reality, people can turn around and say, well, you would have got everything prepared. Yes, that's exactly what happens in a school when Ofsted ring them 3 days before and say, we're turning up. All the teachers are straight there.
The pizza comes out and they work round the clock and they get it right.
No one's going home.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, that did happen. But you did get the unannounced. Now you're in a situation where you got services that haven't been inspected for, 5, 6, sometimes 7, 8 years. You've actually got services in existence that registered 3 years ago and have never had an inspection. So here's what happens with the culture there. You're in fear of it every single day. They could turn up, but they don't. And then they get that first inspection. And these are people that have never been inspected before. You imagine being a manager and you're still the same manager, but you've not been inspected for 8 years. How do you really think that inspection is going to go? Because you're 8 years from missing out going through that test, if you like. Because every year you should improve. So what you actually found when we were regulated in those 2 inspections a year, we improved. In all time. Now, people will turn around to me and say, well, services are so much better. Yes, they are. They have evolved. But Winterbourne didn't happen under the old system. And there's a number of others that I could actually rhyme off that were all rated as goods, that all had inspections by the regulator, had whistleblowers go to the regulator, and were all found to be false until someone sent an undercover carer in there who found it instantly. So I think the environments have changed, and rightly so, as has the houses we all live in, as has the hotels that we all visit now, and the holiday destinations we go to. That's just evolution, investment. But in terms of the regulator, unless we are actually getting constant relationships, inspections on a regular basis, then we're going to fall into a trap of not knowing what to expect. And here's the biggest thing. If you don't know what to expect, that's your biggest fear in life. When you know what to expect, you prepare yourself for it. And we don't know how to prepare. We think we know how to prepare. There's a billion consultants out there telling us how to prepare. But ultimately, you need to have the experience of being inspected. What are they looking for? What's the changes? How does this evolve into the workplace? Staff understanding what it's like to speak to the inspector, etc. Take away this culture of fear. Bring in regulation that works and supports. Go back to the education system and allow children to realize you don't have to be a nurse, okay, or a doctor. That social care, here's the mad thing. If somebody had sat me down, there is managers out there today, and you know who they are, who earn £100,000 a year. Now they are managing £30 million turnover businesses. So reward for that. No one ever told me at school as a manager I could earn 100 grand a year, because that would have changed my whole thought process in terms of where I was heading. Yeah, absolutely. Hold on a minute. I can go into an industry where I don't need to be qualified at this moment in time. I just need to do my apprenticeship in it, learn my trade, become good at it, have the right values, have the right thought processes going forward. And somebody will pay me 100 grand a year. It's more than what an accountant gets. And you'll start to drive people into the industry. Instead, they want to say, it's unsociable hours, it's minimum wage, it's this, it's that. So are many industries. But you're not showcasing to people the opportunities that sit within the industry. So we have got so much that needs to happen within this industry to change, from the way we train, to the competencies, to how we regulate, to how we develop leaders. How do we put programs in there that actually recognize the professional work that carers do? How do we give them a PIN number and let them register? How do we give them those rights? How do you put minimum qualifications in there that you have to achieve in order to go up to the next level? I don't walk into a bank and get to become the bank manager. There's levels that I would have to go. What does that pathway look like for people? And then how do we make sure that everybody has the right resource and funding to make that happen? This industry ain't going nowhere. This industry is the biggest pain in the arse to the government right now. They don't know what to do with it. The costs are spiraling. People are aging and will continue to age. So they are absolutely clueless as to how we actually respond to this, because the industry, technically speaking, as far as they're concerned, is in crisis. But it's in crisis because no one's actually looking at the whole thing and going, we need to start at the bottom and work our way back.
Exactly. The layering.
Yeah.
We're making decisions off someone else's decision and foundation,
Yeah.
but that might not have been the right decision
Yeah.
to start off with. And that's continuous. So if we're getting into a realm of regulation and everything else, we hit that exact same pothole with one of our services, whereby manager, never been inspected for 8 years, first time inspection, fantastic inspector. And that's now rare, and it shouldn't be rare.
Yeah.
He were very understanding. He found where things could have been done better. But equally, where this particular service and manager were penalised, shall we say, was things that were human error. And what I mean by that is day one of inspection. Imagine you're a brand new manager, 8 years have gone, you're proud of what you're doing, you're trying your best, and you're new and you're developing. A safeguard, as we all get, had happened on the Sunday. Manager starts Monday, gets briefed at 8:30 about this particular situation. At 8:45, inspection team walked in, gone out of her head, done the doing in the background of what that she needed to do, but it had gone out of her head to, right, I need to do a safeguard to the local authority, I need to do a CQC notification, and that's the two bits of the journey that I need to capture. And that's what hit the entire inspection down, and we were marked down in 2 areas because she hadn't reported to the regulator. So if we flip that narrative around what you were saying about going back to regulation, that's also supportive and understanding that we're not beating somebody with a stick when it goes wrong, then we should get better outcomes in terms of as a sector and what we're doing and how we're doing it.
There's a great book called Black Box Thinking, and it talks about the airlines, and there was lots of airline disasters that happened. It was actually one of the most dangerous ways to travel. And the industry got together and said, instead of us all trying to blame each other, we need to find out why planes are falling out of the sky. So we need to fit black boxes in them all. And there'll be no persecution that occurs from that, but there'll be an inquiry where all the airlines will have to come to the room, listen to the black box to see whether it's something that could reoccur within their own planes. And they've turned around from that by removing this fear of persecution to become one of the safest forms of travel there is in the world. And that's what happens. But at the end of the day, a member of staff is unlikely to tell you that they've given the wrong medication because they're frightened of what the consequence of that can be. But if we would go on black box thinking and they came forward and said, we'd be able to turn around and say, right, why did that happen? Is that likely to happen again? Is it a training? Is it a process? Is it the way we do something? That's a true lessons learned. But at the same token, I now need to report it to CQC, who's going to raise a safeguard and potentially come in and inspect me, write about it in a report and publish it out into the public sector. It's like, that's not collaboration, that's persecution. And they feel the need to do that because they're funded and they're a government body to do that.
And they're worried about panorama.
Correct. But you're not going to improve an industry by beating it with a stick. And also, actually, I have a care home. It's a fucking good care home, right? It's in a community. It's only 30 bedded. It's been around forever. I don't make a lot of money from it, if anything, right? Because it all goes back. I call it my charity. They have everything they could possibly need. The village that it's within, there is 3 surrounding villages. It's the only care home. People, it's a farming, agricultural area. They don't want to leave, right? It's a huge part of that community, and it is cared for. Now, is it the greatest? Is it the Hilton Hotel? No, right? Do people get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Yes, they were farmers. Do they go to bed at 6 o'clock at night? Yes. Am I going to change 80 years of their lifestyle? Absolutely not. Yeah, the staff, the retention of the staff is amazing, right? And I look at it and go, it can never get outstanding, because I'd have to knock it to the floor and rebuild it. And yet I would turn around and say, it's brilliant. Now, I know and walk into hundreds, if not thousands, of care homes that are like that.
And that's what I mean about outstanding. It's saying about what is outstanding. To me, outstanding to me is, and I say this a hell of a lot, I feel like a stuck record, family members saying to you, Paul, my only regret was not finding your care home sooner. Because I feel content, I feel that mum or dad's safe, the care team you've got there are exceptional, I can sleep at night and I've got my mum back, or I've got my dad back. And then the role reversal of that is the people that are in your care, the feedback they give you is, it's my home. I'm living. You know, I'm not just surviving, I'm not just existing, I'm living. I've got a community around me and I've got purpose. And if we can give people purpose later in life, when they've felt as though they haven't at some point because of whatever's led them to need in a care room at that point in time, surely that's exceptional.
So that's exactly what I would say and agree 100%. Outstanding to me, forget about care for a second, let's just put it into life. Outstanding is when I go somewhere or do something and I get, it's amazing, right? I did not expect that. It met my expectations and went far beyond. That's how we go outstanding. If I go to a show and the lead singer comes on and they blow me away, I'm going, that was outstanding. That was one of the greatest shows I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the brochure and going, show was rubbish, but the brochure, bloody outstanding this. No, I'm normally looking at the brochure and going, that's compared to what I've just watched, that's a load of rubbish, right? So it's the performance, it's the show, it's the feeling that you get, experience. So when I look at a care facility, I'm not being funny. There is so many care homes I see on good that are outstanding, and so many that I see that have got outstanding that are good. And I can tell that within 20 minutes of being inside that building. The ones that got outstanding, and I'm not trying to do them a discredit, they were just really good at paperwork. They normally had the finances to bring in the right legal teams or to use the right HR companies to build them the best software, the best documentation, etc. like that. We're even seeing it now where CQC are turning around and saying homes should be embracing AI, but they're going to have to put safety checks in there. So you're going to get big corporates that will go AI crazy with it, right? The smaller providers, no chance with that. They're just going to still sit there with ChatGPT and go, well, can I get that to write something for me? That's my AI, right? So you can't, at the end of the day, what you're getting as far away from as possible is the experience. So,
and the customer service, we've lost that. We've lost customer service.
So I always like to turn around and say, call it as it is. I don't believe there is a single person on the planet in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that wants to go into a care home. Right? I don't. No, give me a beach in Barbados and I'll take that. That's where I see outstanding now, right? So I don't want to go into a care home. However, something may occur in my life where my choices become limited. Right? Now, that could be a feeling of guilt that I'm now impacting my own family and they've got a life to live. It could be a feeling of fear because I keep falling over, or there's something happening to me mentally that I don't understand and it's causing confusion in areas of my life. It could be a physical condition such as a stroke and I need a form of rehabilitation. There's a number of reasons that can occur to me where my choices become limited as to staying at home or having to go into care. At that point, I need to find somewhere that suits me, the individual I am, the character I am, the person I am, the culture I have, the faith I have, wherever it may be, something that identifies with me and understand it shares my values, not your values, my values. So that's where I'm going to spend my life. And I'm surrounded by people that I feel care for me and love me. Give me that. That's outstanding. Write me the greatest care plan on the planet. You can stick it up your backside. Honestly, I'm not going to sit there and feel, oh my goodness, you did not involve me in the review this month. No, I get to speak to you every day. If you weren't delivering the care that I wanted, surely I'm going to feed that back to you if I have the capabilities. Surely my family are. Get care first. Outstanding should be care. That's where it should be, because that's what we do. Yes, you need all the other stuff, but those are becoming academia. Right?
So that's about the elevation of the staff team, developing them and pushing them.
Absolutely.
To know what. So thinking about where you've started off on this journey with training, coaching, development, competency versus confidence and everything else. Tell us a little bit, Paul, about the competency business that you've got, that you run, and if you could, where do you notice the difference between when you first meet that customer who comes to you to the kind of the people that are coming to you saying, we acknowledge what you've just said, we know we get the foundations done and we kind of move on, and now we want to start elevating our team to get the exceptional care, to get the exceptional experience. What's the difference, do you believe, in terms of from when they first come to you to so many months later? What are those KPIs that kind of kick out all the time in terms of measuring?
So KPIs, so important. And without boring everybody to death, I am a KPI god. It's like literally what I live by.
Love the data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I believe if you're investing in something, the first thing you should be looking at is what's my return on this investment. That doesn't always have to be a monetary value.
No.
So, for instance, if I was going to give all my staff safeguarding training, then how am I measuring at the end of the year as to what the effect of giving that training has been? If it is going to be, moving and handling, how many less moving and handling instances are we seeing? You should be measuring everything. With that, when you have that data and that information, you know where to spend the money wisely. So when I go into an organization, what normally happens is they are just doing everything they think they've been told to do. So the first thing to do is to completely review it. What can we strip away? What don't we need to do? Where does the investment need to go into? Often you're saving money by doing that. Right. Who are we actually choosing that's in a sort of like what I like to class as the rock stars? Who are the people that you're looking at and we need to propel them at a rate to get them higher up because they have something about them? How are we going to develop them individually? Right, who's the people that's going to branch out the way? So who's going to become a mentor? They don't necessarily want to go up, but they can become good mentors, good bodies. They may actually like to go into the teaching world and do a bit of teaching workshop, so we can actually look at train the trainer models.
Just want to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can look at the whole blanket thing and go, for the first time in your life, we're actually going to do a training strategy plan that is not a blanket across the board. This is how we do it. It looks at every individual and pathway for individuals going up. Now, where do we see improvement with that? We always see improvement with that because we're always the ones that's asking for the measurements on that. So we will go back to a company and say, just do us a favor. You've been doing safeguarding with us all year. Can you tell us how many safeguardings you had in 2024 compared to how many you've had in 2025? And once we see those stats and feed it back to them, they go, oh my goodness, yeah, I can see the investment. It's amazing how many people can't give you that information. So measuring it is critical, but also when you start to look at individuals, making them understand. So I developed a course called CHAPS. way back when.
We're talking about this the other day.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I should have trademarked it at the time because I fought the industry over this. And then all of a sudden, because I never trademarked it and it got accepted everywhere, every other company out there now has a version of CHAPS. But we are still the only accredited version of CHAPS. So this was my fight. My background is residential care for the elderly. That's absolutely my bread and butter. I looked at everything we did as senior care workers within a residential care home, and then I had vast views of what senior care staff done in a nursing home. And those senior care staff in a nursing home were doing nowhere near the level of what my senior staff were doing in a residential care home. In fact, the nurses were doing all those roles that those senior staff were doing in a residential care home. Now, people may turn around and say, yeah, but it's a nursing home, the medication will be different. No, it's not. Right? So, it was, if you worked in a nursing home and you became a senior care assistant, there is no pathway for you. That's it. Unless you go and qualify as a nurse, there is nothing more that you can do. So you're either going to do one or two things. One, stop growing. Dangerous. That means they're just going to consistently become normal. Right? Plateaued.
Challenge nothing day to day.
Second, they've got ambition, they've got drive, they'll leave you.
Move on.
We can't have that happen. We need to nurture them. We need to give them the next level up before they make the next opportunity. We had a huge shortage of nurses. That'd be funny if the nurse was walking around for 4 hours of their shift, administering medication, taking blood pressures, etc. That's ridiculous. You see, in a residential care home, we have district nurses that will come in and do the nurse parts that we need. Well, in a nursing home, your nurse can be the district nurse that's just there and roaming around and doing the things that they're qualified to do. But let your senior staff be senior staff. Teach them those front lines. So when we look at everything, the reason why I said that is because I'm always looking at opportunities for people to develop. So training can't stay the same way as it did for Florence Nightingale. We've passed that, right? E-learning came. We can't stick with it as in its form. It doesn't work. It's compliance, right? Never in my life, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and I write e-learning courses, so I'm probably going to get slated for this. I have never done an e-learning course, stepped away from that computer and gone, bingo, got it, I know exactly what I'm doing now. It's planting a seed.
Exactly.
Right? I now need to develop and grow that seed. So there's lots of different things. So we go into companies and say, just let us know what your spends are and let us actually look at how we're going to get development, because without development of the team, you ain't going to develop your business. I go back to the original thing I spoke about. If your biggest asset is the staff, then where's your investment into them?
Definitely.
Because otherwise, they're just going to become stagnated. Can't have that.
Totally. And it's funny that you mentioned CHAPS, because we're actually doing something at the moment where I believe that people in residential services should have that elevator clinical model. And they should have someone who can speak the language to the district nursing teams. And then when they do discover wounds for a person in our care, there can be the immediate response.
Absolutely.
They can make safe that situation, document it, assess it, and then hand over to district nursing. Creates a different relationship with district nursing teams.
We proved it for residential care homes. We did it in train chats. Less hospital admissions.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is where you start to look at how partnerships can work with healthcare.
Definitely.
Less hospital admissions, more decisive action, better communication skills, more information when the paramedic turns up if called out that you can hand over that allows them to make a decision.
Yeah.
So speaking with the families in a more medical context, but also you've given the person the ability of having this new skill, and it goes right back. Give me something new and I'll learn it. And that's what you're doing here. You're saying to someone, I want you to learn these skills. How does that help your business? Massively.
Totally. We've created excellent summits. So, and that'd be good to get your feedback on as well, the other bit about that reverse engineering again. Because have you ever been in a situation where you're speaking to a group of people, you feel like you're getting on the level with them, you feel like you know the seed's been planted and you are growing it quite significantly. There's a lot of emotional intelligence going on, lots of food for thoughts being landed in the right way with people. And then you mentioned it earlier on, then they go back and it's almost like it never happened. It's like Men in Black have come out with with the flashlight and done this.
Memory erasing.
Why do you think that happens?
Culture.
Okay. And how do we reverse engineer that culture?
Okay, let me ask you about your own character.
Okay, go for it.
If you seen something you didn't like, would you say something?
Yes.
Right, 98% of people wouldn't.
Right.
So you're in the 2% chain.
Okay.
Okay. So if I go somewhere and because I'm that 2% as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go somewhere and I see something that I like or something we're going to do different, I will come back and instantly go, we are changing it.
Yeah.
That's what makes us leaders, by the way, right? Because then we learn how we're going to convince everybody else to go with us.
Mm-hmm.
Those that aren't leaders, they will conform. So they may have seen it, they may know it's the right way to do it, but they come back and they see everybody else continuing to do it the old way.
Mm-hmm.
So they just conform, but in their head, they know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So now it almost becomes victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not happy with it, they don't like it, but what can they do about it?
Yeah.
So when you're in a classroom and you're teaching someone, this is the bit that a lot of companies miss out on. Too many managers, deputies, CEOs, they don't attend the training. You see, when I have a CEO in a room or a manager in a room, if I can convince them they're the leader, they will change it and everybody will go, yeah, that's the right way to do it. Too many times, I could tell someone, okay, I could give someone 100 ideas and their head could be flying and they could go, I can't wait to get back to the service. And then they get back to the service and the manager starts going, no. They give up. So we got to actually get the right people in the room. A manager, in my mind, they should want to know what staff are learning.
Mm-hmm.
Every single course that is delivered should be almost bespoke.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm coming in to deliver a safeguarding course to your team and you booked it, right? What I'm going to teach them it, but tell me why you need them to do this training.
Mm-hmm.
Because your reason can be completely different to someone else's reason. Yeah. And here's the thing with training. It's 20% knowledge, it's 80% show.
Mm-hmm.
A training room, a good training room is an experience. I'll laugh, I'll cry, I'll show every emotion, I'll work with my peers, there's therapy that will happen.
Interactive.
I get to rant, I get to understand, but there's 20% of it slotted in there that's going to change everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want that 20% to be? Because that's the critical part. If your biggest problem in your care home is the way people interact with people, then we need to focus that safeguarding course on interacting with people, on communication skills, on how people can take things the wrong way, on what representational systems look like.
And I guess from your point of view, there's always that should, to me, it feels pretty straightforward, because there's always an element, I guess, when people are reaching out to training providers of a bit of a distressed purchase. Yeah. There's kind of a reason that this has now come to the table.
Well, it is, but then this is where statutory and mandatory come back into it. You see, if I've got 50 care homes across the UK and I decide that all staff are going to do safeguarding training because it's compliance, then it's an off-the-shelf product. What I'm saying is that the person making that decision is normally HR, an L&D director. So they've got to book all this training. They've got to work with someone. They will look over the course content. The manager knows when the training is happening at their service. They have the ability to telephone that office at that time and say, right, it's my team that you're coming in to teach. This is our pinch points. My areas are.
Yeah.
And as a trainer, you would love that, because there is nothing better. And here's an old trick, right? The amount of times I used to get booked to do a training course, and I would know we need safeguarding, we need it now, straight away on CQC's website. Oh, they've had an inspection, da-di-da-da, here we go, you're reading through it, right, there's the part, there's a nugget. So you go into the room and you say, listen, guys, right, so you need to be very mindful. It's important we understand and get this. CQC are very hot at this moment in time and looking into areas such as this and this. And someone in the room will go, that's exactly what happened to us.
Yes.
Now you've got the room.
You've got them.
Right.
Because it's personal.
But you have to find that out yourself.
Yeah.
So I always look at it and go, managers need to look at their training more effectively and go, what's my return on investment here? If I'm going to give you my staff for that period of time, if I'm going to spend time covering that rota, if it's going to come out of my budget, what do I get out of it? If it's a certificate, what's the point?
And then that goes back to when we very first started this conversation on the right managers in the right role. And the ability to lead and understand what they're doing, not that longevity has brought us to this role, but actually skill set, exposure, growth, being, hungry for more, to be different, to challenge traditional models, to do those things. And I think if people are in leadership roles, which is a tremendous privilege, but a significant responsibility and the toughest job, I would argue, in any care home is the registered manager role. But if they are not the person that's going to be able to lead a business and therefore know that I need to be thinking about return on investment, that's not just a number, it's about what makes my service more effective, more efficient, but what makes me have, when we started off, that perfect week? What are these pinch points in certain things, and understands how that then translates into real life. So I think it goes back to then recruitment, doesn't it? And we could go on all day talking about those things. But for us, I totally agree. And I love the where you've gone with this in terms of challenging that. Yes, e-learning's there. And yes, there is compliance and that tick box. But actually, we should be challenging ourselves to say, okay, well, what's now wrong in saying that bit's done? We need to now just be elevating, and it's the capturing of that, measuring of the coaching to the development, the outcomes, the return on that 360 feedback on each individual segment of what training would look like.
Well,
I think that's it.
Absolutely. Let's put it another way. We're all in competition with ourselves to a degree. It's a business. So why would you give your team the same training that everybody else is having, your competitors? I'm pretty certain, I may be completely wrong here because I don't know, but I'm pretty certain that if I worked at the Savoy in London, I'd get a different level of training to working in the Premier Inn in Basingstoke. I may be completely wrong, so if we're getting sued now by the Premier Inn the Savoy, but I would expect, my expectations would be, there's probably a lot more coaching and mentoring going on at the Savoy. There's senior leaders in there that are, I just know that if I'm going to work there, I'm shining my shoes and I'm pressing the crease in my pants before I've even turned up. Because if I don't, somebody's going to say something.
It goes back to the phone call though, doesn't it? If it's a £208,000 phone call, the person answering the call needs to be trained, customer service, elevating experience. It's that the Savoy understands the return.
Absolutely. I'm going to challenge anybody listening to this. If you're a manager out there or an owner, ring one of your care homes or your care services at around about 7 p.m. Or get somebody else to do it. Tell them that your mom is in hospital. Find out the name of the local hospital. Find out a ward. Staff are very clever at asking that question.
Remember how old she is?
Yeah. Absolutely. And see if they give you the right information you need. There's 3 things they should take from you immediately. Email, your name, your phone number, and give you a time when somebody's going to get back to you.
Definitely.
Right? If they don't take any of that information, they'll let you off the phone. So don't give it voluntarily. They'll let you off the phone. I promise you now, you'd move on to the next person on the list. Engage when you come off that call. Were they friendly enough for you to want to put your mum there? If you come off that phone call disappointed, please don't go and blame the member of staff that took the phone call. Look at your processes, look at your training, look at your culture and change it.
Totally. Love that. Agree 100% with all that, and we could definitely go on all day with this. It'll be good to review this in a few months' time, Paul. We, like I said, the summits and everything we're doing, we're developing something very, very different, and it'll be good for us to come back here and for me to share those stats and those KPIs and those figures to see what we've done very transparently, because what I think we do really well as an organisation is pushing all the time. What can we do different? What can we do different? How can we be different? How can we elevate something? But equally, we're really good at saying, we got that wrong. This should have been better. We didn't do that. And this is why. It's not an excuse, but we're giving you an explanation of, because people deserve at least that when things don't go well. Equally, when we make decisions, we say, that was the wrong decision. That impacted you in that way, and we never intended it for it to be that way. And this is
that has to come from the top first.
Oh, absolutely.
Too many times, we don't want to admit that. I would be the first person ever to turn around and say, that was on me, that. Absolutely on me.
Have you seen my cake on LinkedIn? Did you see the post?
No, what have you put?
So I made a decision for the right reasons for a team of ours. And it were about pay. And we know pay is like walking into war when we start looking at changing pay and processes. But I wanted to really look at changing pay, one, so that people had, mortgages and applications, whatever, they got the salary, the consistent number, etc. And equally, I'm thinking, okay, forecasting that would be, more efficient for the finance team. Let's look at moving hourly to salary. Worked in one service beautifully, we piloted it, did not work in the other one. And the reason it didn't work in this one were for lots of different factors, but it were never going to work, and they were always going to feel worse off until February. And then they'd feel fine. Now, it caused a lot of upset. People were worried about, do I need to cancel my family holiday now? Because it's really impacted me to that point whereby I can't now pop that extra £60, £75 a month in my savings because it's gone. So I reversed the decision, not because they all started shouting about it, because I looked at it, knew they were right, knew I were wrong in terms of saying it would work. And then when it would reversed, I then did them a cake and I sent it to them. And the front of the cake said, to the team, I had a few eggs left over from my face, so I thought I'd turn them into a cake, was the icing. And then it talked about being able, we all should be able to say when we were wrong. And that is, no one is exempt from that, including me. So I'm sorry. I hope you like the cake.
It would have been really well received, that.
Oh, it were. It absolutely were. It were tremendously received. We all need to be able to do that, because no one has got the answers all the time. No one is right all the time. And as leaders, we have to make decisions, sometimes not on all the information. We've got to make decisions on things to progress things and move them forward. And a lot of those are difficult. And that's the privilege and the burden of the role all in one. But I think if you're a leader that can then be able to say, I was wrong with that, probably got half the battle there with the culture.
It's such a, even when I'm talking about leadership, there's times you have to take emotion out of it, because you have to be logical in your thinking. There's times you have to put emotion back into it. It's a difficult curve as to where you slot it. But that point of reminding people that we're all human beings. I often say this to people, sometimes in leadership, particularly, when you're CEOs, etc. like that, people, they put you so high on a pedestal that you're invincible and you're superhuman.
You're not human.
When actually you're not. So my thoughts and processes and feelings and emotions are exactly the same as yours. And the difference is sometimes we want to mask it and hide it because we don't want to reveal it. But I always say to people, the more transparent you can be, there's a great theory called Johari window. I think if you've never seen it, go look at it. It is all about transparency and opening up that window. And you will find that you will get a lot of people relate to you a lot better when they know more about you and understand you. So I have absolutely no issues talking to my team about mental health issues and burnout, etc. like that, because I've experienced it. Now, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd have been, pull your big boy pants up, get on with it, proper northern attitude. My dad would have kicked my ass over this. But then you experience it yourself, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? And then you start to sympathize with what it
And
can
have
be
empathy,
like.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've come in my later years to understand that actually showing weakness and showing emotion and vulnerability is a superpower in itself, because that's when the team jump in and help you.
Being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul, thank you very much.
Loved it.
I've absolutely loved it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your
Emily.
time. Georgia, our head of storing purposes, now circled the room 3 times to kick us off. So we have to call it there, but I appreciate that. It were magnificent. I'll share your details to our listeners, and you have just concluded our season 1 of In Good Company.
Wonderful.
So thank you
So it's the
very
after
much.
party now.
After parties now. That's it. Thank you.